Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show here on STV. The main talking points on tonight's programme. It's a title eliminator as Lennon and Duffy square up in the Battle of Easter Road. Rangers manager offers advice to young star Billy Gilmore. And Aberdeen signed Greg Tansey on a pre-contract. Just a few of the talking points. Alan Ruff and myself, Peter Martin, will be discussing with our boot room guest, I'm delighted to say, the Alloa player manager Jim Goodwin, although I get the feeling that the playing days are getting less and less. Is that a fair comment?
Yeah, I haven't played a competitive game now for a number of weeks, and funnily enough, since I've took myself out of the team, we've not lost a game, so it seems to have been a good decision.
Yeah. Do you know, the funny thing is, the first thing we're going to be talking about is one of those situations where I think you're better placed than most to give us your overview of it, Jim, because you've gone from, forgive me, bad boy to good boy to disciplined, the whole thing, you know, throughout your career. This last night I watched, Ruffy, I was at Easter Road, and as you can see by the Mail, first of all, I think, fight night, I beg your pardon, it was a fright as well at the end for quite a few people because it was one of the dullest games that I've ever witnessed. It was 89, 90 minutes of nothing, and then I have to say, Kudus Oyenuga's challenge on Jordan Forster was potentially a leg breaker. And then it all kicked off. It all went mental. Two managers going head to head.
Yeah, and as Jim will tell you, it usually happens like that when it's right in front of the dugout. If it had been away across the other end of the park, they'd probably have sorted it out. But because it was in front, the two managers, the subs and then everybody reacts, and it's very difficult to pull yourself away, you know, and that's what's happened. And obviously the two of them have got involved in the whole situation. But if either of the two of them had said to me they were going to pull my head off, I'd have been in the dugout. I wouldn't have been going face to face for them.
Well, with all due respect, let me narrow that down even more. If Jim Duffy had said to me he was going head to head, Jim Goodwin, I'd have been right out of there.
Yeah, me too. No, I think Duff and Neil Lennon are two very fiery characters, obviously both trying to protect each other's players, I suppose. But the tackle was a bad tackle. It was, and you know, whether it was a red card or not, I don't know. But it was certainly he wasn't quite in control of the tackle, and the referee had dealt with that part of it. Darren McGregor obviously comes into the mix, and then you know the boys' reaction to Darren going head to head with him is a bit pathetic as well, and then that's what creates the whole skirmash. You know, I don't think Darren moves his head towards the player. I don't think it was a headbutt. I think that'll probably be reviewed and hopefully common sense will prevail there. But obviously Neil Lennon and Jim Duffy no doubt will be looking back on that just now and you know, this morning and probably slightly embarrassed by the scenes, I would imagine.
Yeah, well, this is Jim Duffy explaining the whole situation.
What happened? I think it was a poor challenge for Kudus. I think the referee was going to deal with it. I think he probably would have gave a red card. It was dangerous, it was reckless. The things that you'd probably give a red card for, so let the referee deal with it. But unfortunately their bench reacted, and then our bench reacted, including myself. And, you know, one or two things were said and a bit of a melee, and the referee's out the stand. So I say there's something new to me. I've been involved in football a long time. I've never been sent to the stand, so first time. But anyway, it's always good to lose your virginity eventually. Sometimes you have a reaction, it's not something you like to see. And as I say, unfortunately, all you guys here today will focus on that. And a team like Morton have came to Easter Road with the forum they have, with the possibility of winning the league, with the firepower they've got, the quality they've got, and went away with a point. I think it's a fantastic point for us, a great clean sheet.
We're right at the back of the stand, Jim, so we're a bit away from it, but it did look like, I don't know if punches were thrown, but people had to really step in to separate you two. Would that be fair enough to say?
No punches thrown.
No, nothing like that.
No, if I throw a punch, you'll know about it.
Yep, I'll vouch for that one. if Jim Duffy's going to throw a punch, I'd have him in any title eliminator. Of course, we waited actually a considerable amount of time before clearly a still angry Hibs boss Neil Lennon came in.
I'll tell you what happened, right? Here's my take on it. This guy tried to break his leg, and then Darren McGregor goes over, and then he feigns a headbutt. goes down holding his face when Darren didn't make any contact. And then the next thing I've got the Morton manager asking for a square goal, which is fair enough. I'm not going to back down. Then I've got the assistant manager. Then I've got the Morton players. But it'll be bad old Lenny. Lenny's fault. Lenny started it, blah, 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 all that rubbish. I didn't react in any other way that any other manager wouldn't react to a tackle like that. It's disgraceful. And the boy's behaviour was embarrassing. Not only has he tried to break my player's leg, he's got my captain sent off as well. In an act of cowardice. And I have to take that.
What did the referee say to you, Neil?
He said he'd put a report in. So we'll wait and see what the report says, and we'll deal with it accordingly. And we will appeal Darren's red card as well, because that was embarrassing.
I don't think I've ever seen you angrier.
Well, when you've got a wave of people coming in your face for not doing anything wrong, then you will stand your ground. I'm sorry, but I'm not having it. He's come all the way from his technical area into mine. I haven't done anything other than shout at his player. And I've every right to do that. He would do exactly the same thing if the shoe was on the other foot. And then, to compound it, the boy feigns an injury as if he's been really head-butted badly. It's disgraceful. Absolutely. No wonder I was angry. If it comes to blows, it comes to blows. I wasn't starting it. If it comes to blows, it comes to blows.
Given what's happened before touchline, Neil, do you anticipate that you will be perceived as the...
Well, it depends what you boys portray it as. You've seen it. You've seen what's happened. Jim's got a lot of time for Jim. He's a good guy. Well, I've not a cup of tea. It's disappointing, but I'm not having that. I'm not having this assistant manager trying to have a go as well. And then the players coming over. When my players land there, on the ground, who knows how bad the injury was. In the end, thankfully there's nothing broken in his leg, but he's damaged his shoulder pretty badly. And my captain's been sent off. No wonder I'm annoyed. Every right to be.
There's a game in a couple of weeks.
I'm looking forward to it.
Will you see the need prior to that to speak to them to try and take the sting out of this one?
No. Take the sting out of what? We didn't do anything wrong. My captain has been sent off for nothing. They need to look at themselves. I don't need to reproach any of my players or myself, really, for what went on. But as usual, it'll be all about me.
It was an absolutely unbelievable press conference, I have to say. Let's cut to the chase on this and pull more punches on it. No manager likes to see their player potentially getting an injury which could rule them out for a long period of time. But I think the manager, Neil, will find himself in big trouble, just basically for his actions, which the camera doesn't lie on it. Whether he's perceived as the bad guy or not, I think he's in trouble, Ruffy.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be portrayed as a bad guy. He's going to be portrayed as behaving in an aggressive manner, and that's what he'll be dealt with. And I think we all can appreciate that, and probably Jim more than others, that when you're on that touchline, you feel as if everything's taken away from you and you want to be part of it. But you've got to be disciplined enough when something like that happens and try and deal with it accordingly. I can appreciate, when things like that happen, that everything's kicking off, you probably do things that you, in hindsight, you would in the morning regret whatever you've done. And I'm sure, although Neil's pretty aggressive there in his manner, I think as the days go on, he'll probably take a step back, hopefully, and maybe try and just calm it a bit.
If Mark McGee's getting 6-game bans, Jim Goodwin for going into the stand at Pittodrie, this one I think could be a hefty one.
Yeah, it's hard to see the SFA not doing anything but giving him a lengthy ban, and it's a shame.
Let's put Jim into this as well. As Lenny said, it's not just Lenny. Jim was there as well. So I think it's everybody that was part of it.
Yeah. I know, but I do think that, Neil said it himself. He is kind of not public enemy number one, but he's had his run-ins previously this season already with SFA. He's had the band. He's had this. So it is something that he's going to have to work on as a, probably people sitting there watching this thinking that's rich coming from me because of the discipline things I've been involved in the past, but it's certainly something that Neil's going to have to try and curb, and his assistant manager and coaches are going to have to try and help him with it on the touchline. He's the type of manager that kicks every ball, and you can see that. He's a passionate guy, and initially he is angry at the challenge on his player because he's trying to protect this player, but after that then that's they're not the kind of scenes that we need to see. Now, I can imagine the compliance officer sitting down, and it won't be just Neil Lennon and Jim Duffy that'll get pulled out of that. I think there's a number of players that'll probably get reprimanded as well.
Yeah, okay. We'll no doubt talk about that and get a wee chat with Jim about his career next. Yeah, most of that first part of the programme dedicated to, well, call it a stramash, call it handbags at dawn, but the fallout from the game Hibs against Morton will undoubtedly continue throughout the week and the weekend as well. We'll no doubt be discussing it. Jim Duffy has released a statement just saying that there's no way that he asked for a square go, which is an unusual press release to get in the first place. They're going to meet after dinner time at playtime and maybe have a square go then. I haven't heard that since we were at school, Ruffy, to be perfectly honest with you. Do you want a square go? That's magnificent. Okay, let's, well, listen. Let's talk about a guy who seems to be totally different from Jim Goodwin, the player, to Jim Goodwin, the manager. Things are looking really good for Alloa. Is it too much to expect that you can make that jump up in the playoffs?
No, not at all. You know, the ambition at the start of the season was to get promotion. We'd set out to win the league, to be honest with you, although we always knew that was going to be a very difficult task with two full-time clubs in the league in Livingston and Airdrie, both with bigger budgets and obviously both being able to train 5 days a week. So, you know, as a part-time club, I don't think anyone expected us to be able to win it, but we had that belief within the dressing room when Jack Ross was in charge, and I tried to carry that on and make sure that that remained instilled within the group. Unfortunately now, with 6 games to go, the gap is probably, you know, too great. Although we'll keep going right to the end and make sure Livingston, you know, go on and win the league rather than us hand it to them. But you know, we have to maintain the momentum going into the playoffs. If that's where we end up, then we need to make sure that we're going into that on the back of some good form, which we are of late. We're unbeaten in 9 games, and you know, I think we've only lost 1 game since Christmas Eve, which is a hell of a run the lads are on, you know, and it's a fantastic group that I've got. Yeah,
can I just pick up on the, you know, you were very complimentary the last time you were on the programme towards Jack Ross. What have you done? Did you have a chat with him before he left, or what have you done to keep it going with your style of management?
Myself and Jack, I think, have got a very similar opinion on how the game should be played. I think we're similar characters in terms of how we treat people. I think we both expect high standards off of, you know, teammates and players in training and in game day. And that was pretty much the selling point from when I was talking to the chairman, you know, when I applied for the job. I didn't think we needed to make wholesale changes. I didn't think we needed to bring someone from out within the club. Out with the club to come in and make drastic changes. I think things needed to be just maintained and carried on. Yes, I've made some tweaks along the way and put my own personal stamp on things, but in terms of how Jack done training and his approach to game, to match days, very, very similar to my own anyway.
And I presume from a managerial point of view, you can't allow yourself to start thinking about playoffs with other teams and then obviously looking you know, up to next season.
No, absolutely not. And you know, we'd spoke prior to the show. You know, it is that old cliche, isn't it? You take one game at a time, and that's the message that I've been given to the lads since the turn of the year. You know, let's just win game by game by game and see where we end up. Now, in fairness to Livingston, they've maintained a great standard. They've been the most consistent team in the league, and they've put a lot of wins together. And like I said, they've managed to extend a decent gap now between both of us. Our problem has been that we've drawn far too many games, unfortunately. You know, I think we've lost 1 game less than Livingston have this season, but unfortunately we've drew a lot more than them, and that's where the killer has been for us.
Yeah. Okay. Jim, we wish you well with that. I want to get your thoughts on a number of other issues as well. All managers chasing promotion to a higher league. Ray McKinnon, we were talking about Dundee United's win earlier in the week. Stephen Thompson, the Dundee United chairman, has been speaking about United's situation. We've had fans on from Dundee United talking about the situation as well. There was this growing rumour that United could be on the verge of administration. The Dundee United chairman's having none of that.
It won't happen to Dundee United. We've done various things over the last number of months. Don't get me wrong, it's tough, but this is about everyone around the club being together, you know, not just me, but you know, the fans. We all know that the number of people aren't happy with me. At the end of the day, you know, any potential boycotts, etc., all it does is damage the club. It doesn't damage me personally. One day I won't be sitting here. You know, one day, past it was my father, it was Jim McLean before that, George Fox before that. Somebody else will be sitting here at some point in the future. You know, we want to make sure that the club doesn't get damaged at any point during that point.
Yeah, I think Scottish football needs to go up a few notches before someone comes in and thinks they can make money on a club even like Dundee United.
Yeah, it's not worth thinking about the financial fallout when you drop out of that division, when the revenue gets cut in half or whatever. And this is when, as he said there, you need the fans. You know, we saw what happened with Rangers and Hearts. If you don't have the full backing of your supporters, you're going to struggle to get back to where you are. And all credit to Rangers supporters and the Hearts supporters. They put their money in there because they love their club, and I think that's what Dundee United have to do as well.
Yep, okay, there's a game tomorrow night. Going to get your predictions on this one, Dundee against Aberdeen. I had a chat with Paul Hartley ahead of the Scotland game. I think he'd love to get Dundee into top 6, but the one overriding thing in his mind is keep Dundee in the league.
Yeah, well, it's that tight, isn't it? You know, the Premiership is really. I mean, I can't believe how kind of little points is probably going to take you into the top 6 this year. You know, it must be the least amount for a number of years, and I think that tells you how competitive, kind of outside the top 3 or 4 teams in the league, it is. You know, they're all taking points off each other along the way. Dundee, for me, are a top 6 club. You know, there's no doubt about that. You know, the infrastructure, the fan base, Paul Hartley, but the thing that Paul had to deal with in the summer, and you know, losing a lot of his best players and then not being able to reinvest in the squad, I think it was very much a transition kind of year for them. So listen, I hope that Paul, he's a good manager. You know, I like him a lot. I spent a lot of time on the A licence and the Pro licence with him, and he plays the game in the right manner. So I do hope that Dundee managed to make it into that top 6, but you're right. I think first and foremost for a number of those clubs, it's about maintaining their SPL status.
Yep, and they've got a job in their hands tomorrow night against Aberdeen. An Aberdeen side that Derek McInnes has announced that Greg Tansey from Inverness has signed a pre-contract. He'll be going to Pittodrie in the summer. Over and above that, I think he's resigned himself to the fact that Niall McGinn may well be looking down south to try English football for his next move. But of course, the Aberdeen manager happy to get Tansey in.
Delighted, as you say. He's a player that I've long admired. You know, we've tried to get him, as you know, previously. And unfortunately we couldn't do it, but you know, I think for me, he's a very accomplished footballer. I think he's a good age. He brings that level of experience. I think there's still more to come from Greg, and hopefully he can do that in Aberdeen shirt. You know, but I've always, whenever I've lined up against him, and whenever I've been watching Inverness, I always think he's a key player for them, and I think that he's got a good range of passing. He's got goals in him. He gets about the pitch. I think he's a good character, you know, from what I know about him. And he's got set play delivery. So all in that, I think being a free agent, I think he's a brilliant signing for us. Really pleased.
Okay, that's a manager happy with the signing. There's another manager actually talking about a young man who hasn't actually kicked a ball in the first team for Rangers yet. Pedro Caixinha was talking today ahead of the weekend football, and he was asked about Billy Gilmore. The young man has been tagged with a possible move to Chelsea for £500,000. The Rangers boss thinks he should stay put.
I think Bill is not only to have a bright future in this club, I think Bill is going to have a bright future in football. Bill is a clever kid. I used to call him Billy the Kid because of his age. And a clever kid for me, or a clever footballer, it doesn't matter about the age, is that someone that anticipates everything that's going before all the others. And Bill is that sort of player. He understands what's going on, so he anticipates, and with only 15 years old, he can compete with boys of 20 years old, or even coming sometimes, as he already came, to play with us on the first team, or training with us on the first team. So it's going to be a bright future.
Should he stay or should he go?
It's a toughie for me, you know. If you've got to believe at that age that you can go right to the top. I think we've all heard that it's most important when you're a young kid to get games under your belt. He's got to say to himself, well, where am I going to get games? You know, am I going to get them here? Or even if he goes down to Chelsea, is he going to be mixing with a better foreign player, and that's going to bring him on? It's a tough decision for the young boy.
Yep, absolutely. We wish him well in the decision that he makes. You can give us your view at Peter and Ruffy on Twitter and Facebook.com/Peter and Ruffy. Listen, we could cram so much more talking into this programme, but the one key element that I think both Ruffy and myself would like to wish Jim a really successful end to the season. Let's hope that they do indeed get a playoff victory and move up a division. Thank you for watching.